Question 1. Clinical Research Fundamentals. Which of the following is the most accurate definition of good clinical practice (GCP) in clinical research? A set of guidelines that primarily focus on protecting the rights of clinical research staff and sponsors. B. A standardized set of procedures to ensure the integrity of clinical trial data and subject safety. C. A set of legal obligations imposed on clinical researchers to minimize research costs. D. A scientific theory that aims to predict the outcome of a clinical trial. Answer: B. Explanation. Good clinical practice (GCP) is an internationally recognized standard that ensures the quality and integrity of clinical trials by establishing guidelines to protect the rights, safety, and well-being of human subjects involved in clinical research. GCP encompasses various aspects, including clinical trial design, monitoring, reporting, and documentation. It emphasizes the necessity of informed consent, ethical and accurate data management. Unlike options A, C, and D, which either focus on staff rights, minimizing costs, or theoretical predictions, GCP is fundamentally focused on ensuring subject safety and trial data integrity through rigorous procedural standards. It is mandated by regulatory bodies such as the FDA and EMA and ensures compliance with ethical guidelines. Question 2. Scenario-based question. Study implementation and management. Dr. Karen is the principal investigator of a fitizomib clinical trial testing a new treatment for hypertension. After receiving informed consent, the research team starts the patient enrollment process. During a monitoring visit, Dr. Karen realizes that a participant has been enrolled despite not meeting the pre-established eligibility criteria due to a clerical error. What should Dr. Karen do in this situation? A. Continue with the participant's enrollment and inform the sponsor at the end of the trial. B. Remove the participant immediately and report the protocol deviation to the Institutional Review Board and sponsor. C. Proceed with the participant's data collection but do not include their data in the final report. D. Allow the participant to continue without reporting the error to avoid disruption to the study. Answer: B. Explanation. In clinical trials, strict adherence to inclusion and exclusion criteria is essential to ensure the safety of participants and the validity of the trial data. The failure to meet these criteria represents a protocol deviation which must be reported to both the Institutional Review Board and the sponsor immediately. Dr. Karen should remove the participant from the trial and not include them in the data collect process to maintain the trial's scientific integrity. Failing to report this error or attempting to cover it up, as in options A, C, or D, would violate regulatory guidelines and ethical principles, specifically the requirement for transparency, data integrity, and participant safety. It is essential to follow the correct steps for reporting deviations to maintain compliance with regulatory bodies and protect the credibility of the research. Question 3. Risk management and safety. Which of the following best describes the concept of risk-based monitoring in clinical trials? A strategy that allocates monitoring resources equally across all clinical sites, regardless of the trial's risks. B. A monitoring approach that focuses on high-risk sites, patients, and trial activities while minimizing resources spent on low-risk areas. C. A method of monitoring clinical trials through real-time data analysis and direct observation of all participants. D. A strategy focused solely on ensuring that clinical documentation is complete, regardless of patient safety concerns. Answer: B. Explanation. Risk-based monitoring, RBM, is a modern approach in clinical trial management where monitoring resources are allocated according to the level of risk associated with particular sites, patients, and trial activities. This approach focuses on identifying and addressing areas that could potentially affect the safety of participants, the validity of data, or the success of the trial. Unlike the equal resource distribution approach, option A RBM prioritizes high-risk factors, which might include complex procedures, vulnerable populations, or high variability in data collection. Option C, real-time data analysis, although relevant, is a tool used within RBM rather than a definition of the strategy itself. Option D misses the crucial patient safety element of risk-based monitoring. Therefore, option B best describes how risk-based monitoring works by allocating resources where the most critical risks lie to ensure a safer and more efficient trial. Question 4. Study design and planning. Which of the following statements best describes the role of hypothesis formulation in clinical trial design? A hypothesis formulation is unnecessary for observational studies as they do not require an initial assumption about cause and effect. B. A hypothesis provides a clear and testable assumption about the relationship between variables, guiding the study's design, data collection, and analysis. C. The hypothesis is only required in phase 1 Roman clinical trials as they involve more complex treatment interventions. D. The hypothesis is used for statistical analysis and does not influence the clinical trial's overall design or procedures. Answer. B. Explanation. Hypothesis formulation is a crucial step in the design of any clinical trial, including observational and interventional studies. It presents a clear, testable assumption or prediction about the relationship between variables, e.g., a treatment and its effect. This hypothesis drives all aspects of the trial from study design, whether randomized or observational, sample size calculations, the selection of endpoints, type of statistical analysis to be used. In contrast to options A, C, and D, the hypothesis is foundational to guiding both the design and execution of the study, ensuring that the trial addresses a scientific question and contributes to advancing knowledge in the field. Without a well-defined hypothesis, a clinical trial would lack direction and purpose. Question 5. Regulatory affairs and compliance. In the context of an investigational new drug application, which of the following is the most accurate statement regarding the role of the FDA? A. The FDA is responsible for conducting all clinical trials involving an IND application. B. The FDA reviews the IND application to ensure that the proposed clinical trial design is scientifically sound and protects participant safety. C. The FDA approves the marketing of an investigational drug before the clinical trials begin. D. The FDA monitors the results of clinical trials and controls the data collection process. Answer. B. Explanation. When a sponsor submits an IND application to the FDA, the agency's role is to review the application to assess the scientific soundness of the proposed clinical trial design and to ensure the safety of the participants involved in the trial. The FDA does not conduct the trials itself, option A, nor does it approve drugs for marketing before trials are conducted, option C. Although the FDA does review trial results, part of the approval process for the drug's market introduction, it does not directly monitor all aspects of the trials or control data collection, option D. The main goal is to evaluate whether the trial protocol is appropriate and that the drug's administration in humans will be safe. This regulatory oversight is essential to protecting public health during clinical research. Question 6. Data management and monitoring. Which of the following is the most important reason for using centralized monitoring in clinical trials? A. Centralized monitoring ensures that all patient data is collected in a single location to prevent discrepancies. B. Centralized monitoring allows for real-time data analysis across multiple sites, enabling quicker identification of issues and deviations from the protocol. C. Centralized monitoring ensures that the data from all sites is identical, reducing the risk of statistical error. Decentralized monitoring eliminates the need for physical site visits and reduces the need for on-site monitoring visits. Answer. B. Explanation. Centralized monitoring in clinical trials refers to the use of remote tools and systems to track data across multiple trial sites, which allows for real-time data analysis. This monitoring approach enables quicker identification of issues such as protocol deviations or data inconsistencies before they become larger problems. By detecting discrepancies early, centralized monitoring enhances the efficiency of the trial while reducing the need for immediate on-site intervention. Option is incorrect because centralized monitoring does not mean data is collected in one location but rather analyzed from multiple sources. Option C is not accurate as centralized monitoring does not aim to make data identical but to monitor and verify its accuracy. Option D misrepresents centralized monitoring as it does not eliminate all the need for site visits, which are still essential for direct participant interaction and verification. Question 7. Ethics in clinical research. Which of the following best describes the concept of vulnerable populations in clinical trials? A. Populations who are less likely to be enrolled in clinical trials due to their advanced age or poor health. B. Populations that are at a higher risk of harm in clinical research due to factors such as cognitive impairment, legal status, or socioeconomic status. C. Populations who can only participate in clinical trials if they are enrolled through a physician's referral. D. Populations that do not require special considerations in clinical research because they are already accustomed to medical interventions. Answer: B. Explanation. Vulnerable populations in clinical trials refer to groups of individuals who, due to factors such as cognitive impairment, legal status, e.g., prisoners' age, e.g., children, or socioeconomic status, may be at a higher risk of harm or coercion during the research process. These populations require special ethical considerations to ensure that their participation in clinical trials is voluntary and protected. The ethical principles of autonomy, beneficence, and justice are critical in ensuring that these individuals are not exploited. Option: OMIS represents vulnerable populations as it focuses on enrollment difficulties rather than risks during the trial. Option C is not an accurate description of vulnerable populations, as a physician's referral is not a defining characteristic. Option D incorrectly suggests that no special ethical considerations are needed for these populations, which is contrary to ethical guidelines in clinical research. Question 8. Clinical trial closeout and post-trial activities. What is the primary purpose of post-trial monitoring in clinical research? A. To provide participants with long-term treatment for the duration of the trial's findings. B. To ensure that all data collection and reporting obligations are completed and comply with regulatory standards. C. To conduct a final audit of the trial's data and provide final reports to all stakeholders. D. To continue patient treatment based on trial outcomes even after the study is officially closed. Answer: B. Explanation. Post-trial monitoring refers to activities that ensure the study is fully closed out and that all data collection, documentation, and regulatory obligations are fulfilled. This step is crucial for ensuring compliance with regulatory standards and for verifying the integrity and accuracy of data collected during the trial. Although options and D mention ongoing treatment or follow-up, they are not the primary focus. Post-trial activities, which primarily involve closing out the trial and preparing final reports. Option C, while related to auditing, focuses more on the closure and finalization of data, but option B is the most accurate in describing the overall purpose of post-trial monitoring. Question 9. Patient and subject management. Which of the following is the most effective method to ensure informed consent is valid in clinical trials? A. Providing participants with a detailed consent form to be signed by the participant's legal guardian. B. Ensuring participants have the opportunity to ask questions and providing answers in a way they can understand or confirming their voluntary participation. C. Requiring participants to undergo a psychological evaluation to assess their ability to understand the informed consent. D. Providing participants with information about the purpose and risks but not requiring their direct involvement in the consent process. Answer: B. Explanation. Informed consent is a cornerstone of ethical clinical research, ensuring that participants are fully aware of the trial's purpose, procedures, risks, and benefits before agreeing to participate. The process involves clear communication, ensuring participants understand the information provided and allowing them to ask questions. Informed consent must be voluntary and participants must be free from coercion. Option is not sufficient because it focuses only on signing a form rather than on true understanding. Option C, while important, is not the primary method for ensuring valid consent in most trials, as psychological evaluation is not a universal requirement. Option D is insufficient because it bypasses the crucial process of answering questions and ensuring voluntary informed decision-making. Question 10. Statistical analysis and reporting. What is the primary reason for performing an interim analysis in a clinical trial? A. To finalize the treatment protocol and ensure data consistency across all sites. B. To assess the early effectiveness or safety of the treatment and decide whether to continue, modify, or stop the trial. C. To review patient enrollment numbers and determine if more participants are needed. D. To evaluate the long-term outcomes of the treatment after the trial has been completed. Answer: B. Explanation. Interim analysis refers to an analysis conducted before the trial's final data collection point. It allows investigators to assess early outcomes in terms of safety and efficacy and determine whether to continue, modify, or hold the trial based on these findings. This analysis can prevent exposing participants to potentially harmful or ineffective treatments and may lead to trial modifications or early termination. Option focuses on protocol finalization, which occurs before the trial begins, and option C addresses enrollment but does not directly pertain to interim analysis. Option D describes post-trial evaluation, which is unrelated to the interim analysis. Question 11. Clinical trial design and randomization. Which of the following is the primary advantage of using randomization in clinical trials? A. It ensures that all participants receive the same treatment. B. It eliminates any potential biases that could arise from the selection of participants. C. It guarantees that the trial will produce statistically significant results. D. It ensures the trial will be completed on time and within budget. Answer: B. Explanation. Randomization in clinical trials is a technique used to assign participants to different treatment groups in such a way that each participant has an equal chance of being assigned to any group. This reduces selection bias, helping to ensure that differences between the groups are due to the treatments being tested rather than pre-existing differences in the participants. While randomization can help with statistical analysis, it guarantees statistical significance. Option C, nor does it affect the trial timeline or budget. Options and D. The main purpose of randomization is to eliminate bias in the assignment of treatments, allowing for a more accurate and reliable comparison of treatment effects. Question 12. Ethical considerations in clinical trials. Which of the following actions would most likely violate the principle of beneficence in clinical research? A. Providing participants with clear, detailed information about the potential risks and benefits of the trial. B. Conducting a trial where participants may be exposed to more risk than necessary to answer the research question. C. Ensuring that informed consent is voluntary and obtained without coercion. D. Ensuring that all participants are free to withdraw from the trial at any point without consequences. Answer: B. Explanation. The principle of beneficence in clinical research refers to the obligation to minimize harm and maximize benefits to participants. Conducting a trial in which participants are exposed to excessive risk that is not necessary to answer the research question would violate this principle. Options A, C, and D all align with ethical standards in clinical research and aim to protect participants' rights and well-being. Providing clear information, ensuring voluntary informed consent, and allowing participants to withdraw freely are all practices that adhere to the principle of beneficence and other ethical principles like respect for autonomy and justice. Question 13. Data integrity and security. Which of the following is the most important reason for maintaining data integrity throughout a clinical trial? A. To ensure that the trial's statistical analysis will meet regulatory requirements. B. To maintain the accuracy and completeness of trial data, ensuring the conclusions drawn from the trial are valid. C. To reduce the time and costs involved in data collection and reporting. D. To increase the chances of receiving marketing approval for the investigational drug. Answer: B. Explanation. Maintaining data integrity in clinical trials is essential to ensure that the data collected is accurate, complete, and reliable. Accurate data allows for valid conclusions to be drawn about the safety and efficacy of the treatment being tested. Inaccurate or compromised data can lead to misleading results, potentially endangering participants and impacting the credibility of the trial. While regulatory requirements and marketing approval options and D are important, they cannot be achieved without maintaining data integrity. Option C, focusing on time and cost, is secondary to the primary goal of maintaining valid and reliable data throughout the trial. Question 14. Trial monitoring and adverse events. Which of the following is the primary responsibility of the Data Monitoring Committee (DMC) during a clinical trial? A. To conduct the clinical trial's statistical analysis. B. To assess interim results and decide whether the trial should continue or be modified based on safety or efficacy concerns. C. To ensure that participants are recruited according to the protocol. D. To review the final trial results and publish the findings. Correct answer: B. Explanation. The Data Monitoring Committee (DMC) is an independent group that reviews interim data during the course of a clinical trial. Their primary responsibility is to assess the safety and efficacy of the treatment based on the early results and make recommendations about whether the trial should continue, be modified, or be terminated. This is done to protect participants from potential harm and to ensure the trial is on track. The DMC does not conduct statistical analysis or handle recruitment options. And C, but focuses on interim safety and efficacy data. Reviewing final results and publishing findings, option D, is typically the responsibility of the study team after the trial has concluded. Question 15. Statistical power and sample size. Why is it important to calculate the appropriate sample size before beginning a clinical trial? A. To ensure that the trial will be completed on time. B. To guarantee that the results will be statistically significant. C. To minimize the risk of exposing too many participants to an ineffective or unsafe treatment. D. To comply with regulatory requirements and avoid legal penalties. Answer: C. Explanation. Calculating the appropriate sample size is essential for balancing the need to detect meaningful effects while minimizing the number of participants exposed to potential risks. An adequately powered sample size ensures that the trial has enough participants to detect a true treatment effect, if one exists, while also ensuring that unnecessary participants are not exposed to risks without contributing to the trial's scientific value. While sample size calculations are also important for achieving statistical significance, option B, the primary goal is to protect participants by ensuring the trial is conducted efficiently and ethically. Options A and D are not primary reasons for determining sample size, although regulatory compliance may be influenced by proper study design. Question 16. Informed consent process. Which of the following is the most critical aspect of the informed consent process in clinical trials? A. Ensuring that participants understand the trial's procedures and potential risks. B. Providing participants with a detailed summary of the trial's financial aspects. C. Giving participants the option to select the treatment they want to receive. D. Ensuring participants sign the consent form in the presence of witness. Answer A. Explanation. The most critical aspect of the informed consent process is ensuring that participants fully understand the trial's procedures, risks, benefits, and their right to withdraw at any time without penalty. Informed consent is an ethical and legal requirement, and the participants' understanding of the trial is central to respecting their autonomy while providing financial summary, option B, and having witness present, option D, are part process. They are secondary to ensuring the participants' comprehension. Allowing participants to select their treatment, option C, is not typically part of clinical trials, as randomization is used to eliminate selection bias. Question 17. Risk assessment and mitigation. Which of the following strategies is most effective in mitigating risk in a clinical trial? A. Using adaptive trial designs to modify the trial as it progresses. B. Ensuring that the trial is conducted according to the sponsor's timeline. C. Implementing strict controls on participant recruitment based on demographic characteristics. D. Prioritizing patient safety and ensuring ongoing monitoring of adverse events. Answer: D. Explanation. The most effective strategy for mitigating risk in a clinical trial is prioritizing patient safety, which includes continuous monitoring of adverse events, managing safety concerns promptly, and ensuring that the treatment under investigation does not pose unnecessary risks to participants. While adaptive trial designs, option A, can help improve the trial's efficiency, patient safety remains paramount. Strict on recruitment, option C, and focusing solely on meeting the sponsor's timeline, option B, do not address the risks to participants directly and should not be considered primary risk mitigation strategies. Question 18. Regulatory compliance and safety reporting. Which of the following actions is required under FDA regulations when a serious adverse event, say, occurs during a clinical trial? A. The investigator must report the AE to the FDA within 30 days. B. The investigator must submit a detailed report to the Institutional Review Board (IRB) within 15 days. C. The AE must be reported to the sponsor and the FDA within 24 hours. D. The participant's treatment must be immediately discontinued to mitigate further risk. Answer: C. Explanation. Under FDA regulations, serious adverse events SAEs must be reported promptly to both the sponsor and the FDA, typically within 24 hours of the occurrence. This quick reporting ensures that the safety of the participants is monitored closely and any necessary adjustments can be made to the trial. Although the investigator must also report the AE to the IRB and may need to take steps to protect participants. Option D. The primary requirement is the 24-hour reporting window to both the sponsor and the FDA. Options A and B are not consistent with FDA reporting timeframes. Question 19. Data management and analysis. Which of the following is the primary benefit of using a clinical data management system (CDMS) in a clinical trial? A. Automates participant recruitment processes. B. Ensures that data is collected, stored, and analyzed in compliance with regulatory standards. C. It reduces the financial cost of running a clinical trial. D. Ensures that clinical trial reports are generated in real time. Answer: B. Explanation. The primary benefit of using a clinical data management system (CDMS) is ensuring that data is collected, stored, and analyzed in compliance with regulatory standards. It helps streamline data collection, improve accuracy, and ensure data integrity throughout the trial process. While it may reduce costs indirectly (option C) or generate reports (option D), its main purpose is regulatory compliance, ensuring high-quality, reliable data. Automating recruitment (option A) is not the main function of ESA. Recruitment involves participant screening and enrollment procedures, not data management. Question 20. Clinical trial closeout procedures. At the closeout of a clinical trial, which of the following is the most critical task to ensure compliance with regulations? A. Ensuring that the final study report is completed and ready for submission. B. Verifying that all participants have been reimbursed for their travel expenses. C. Ensuring that all study documentation and records are properly archived and accessible for future inspection. D. Conducting a final statistical analysis to confirm the trial success. Answer: C. Explanation. At the closeout of a clinical trial, the most critical task is ensuring that all study documentation and records are properly archived and accessible for future inspection. This includes ensuring that essential documents such as informed consent forms, case report for RFS, and source documents are stored in a secure, organized manner in compliance with regulatory requirements. Proper archiving that the trial can withstand future audits or inspections, and that data can be reviewed if needed, while completing the final study report (option A) and conducting statistical analysis (option D) are important. They are secondary to the requirement of maintaining proper records and documentation. Reimbursing participants (option B) is not a regulatory requirement for closeout. Question 21. Study protocol development. Which of the following is the primary purpose of a study protocol in clinical research? A. To ensure that the clinical trial meets the sponsor's financial requirements. B. To outline the detailed plan for the conduct, monitoring, and analysis of the clinical trial. C. To establish the trial's primary endpoint for the purposes of participant recruitment. D. To ensure that all participants are assigned to treatment groups randomly. Answer: B. Explanation. The primary purpose of a study protocol is to outline the detailed plan for the conduct, monitoring, and analysis of the clinical trial. It serves as the blueprint for the study and ensures consistency in how the trial is conducted across all sites. It includes details such as study objectives, design methodology, statistical considerations, and participant safety, while the protocol may outline endpoint definitions (C) or randomization techniques (option D). Its overarching role is to provide the structure for how the trial will be conducted. Meeting the sponsor's financial requirements (option A) is secondary concern and not the primary purpose of the protocol. Question 22. Adverse event reporting. Mr. Martinez, a participant in a phase OMA clinical trial, experiences a severe headache and nausea after receiving the study drug. The investigator determines that the symptoms are related to the investigational product. What is the investigator's next course of action according to GCP guidelines? A. The investigator should immediately terminate the participant's involvement in the study. B. The investigator should report the adverse event to the Institutional Review Board (IRB) within 7 days. C. The investigator must notify the sponsor and the FDA within 24 hours and document the event in the case report form. D. The investigator should contact the participant's primary care physician to assess if the symptoms are part of the normal progression of the illness. Answer: C. Explanation. Under Good Clinical Practice (GCP) guidelines, serious adverse events (SAEs) that are related to the investigational product must be reported promptly. The investigator must notify both the sponsor and the FDA within 24 hours of discovering the event, followed by documentation in the case report form (ERF). This ensures that safety monitoring is done in real time and necessary actions can be taken. Although the investigator may choose to terminate the participant's involvement (option A), the critical next step is the reporting of the AIR. The IRB (option B) is notified later and involving the primary care physician (option D) is not required as part of GCP reporting procedures. Question 23. Sample size calculation and power analysis. When planning a clinical trial, which of the following factors is least important in determining the sample size for the study? A. The expected effect size of the treatment. B. The significance level alpha chosen for the statistical test. C. The number of treatment centers participating in the trial. D. The power 1 beta of the statistical test. Answer: C. Explanation. The number of treatment centers participating in the trial, option C, is generally not a direct factor in determining sample size. Sample size calculation is primarily influenced by the expected effect size, option A, the significance level alpha, option B, and the desired statistical power, option D. These factors influence how likely the study is to detect a meaningful difference between groups and whether the finding is statistically valid. While the number of centers may affect operational considerations and enrollment speed, it does not directly influence the sample size calculation for statistical purposes. Question 24. Ethical considerations in clinical research. Which of the following is a key ethical concern when recruiting vulnerable populations for clinical trials? A. Ensuring that vulnerable participants are compensated more than non-vulnerable participants. B. Ensuring that informed consent is obtained in a way that the participants can understand, given their vulnerability. C. Ensuring that the trial is designed to demonstrate efficacy in vulnerable populations, specifically. D. Ensuring that vulnerable participants are excluded from high-risk trials to protect them from potential harm. Answer: B. Explanation. A key ethical consideration when recruiting vulnerable populations is ensuring that informed consent is obtained in a way that the participants can understand, given their vulnerability. Vulnerable populations, such as children, individuals with mental disabilities, or economically disadvantaged individuals, may face challenges in comprehending the risks, benefits, and procedures of clinical trials. Therefore, the informed consent process must be tailored to their needs to ensure that they make fully informed decisions while compensating vulnerable participants, option A, or excluding them from high-risk trials, option D, are considerations in some situations. The most important ethical concern is ensuring understanding during the informed consent process. The design of the trial to demonstrate efficacy, option C, is not a specific ethical issue, but rather a scientific and methodological one. Question 25. Data privacy and security. In a clinical trial, how should data privacy be maintained to ensure compliance with HIPAA regulations? A. Data should be collected in a paper form only, as electronic records are more prone to breaches. B. Patient data should be de-identified and access should be restricted to authorized personnel only. C. Data should be shared with all stakeholders to ensure transparency and access to study results. D. Data should be stored on external hard drives and not in centralized systems to minimize digital threats. Answer: B. Explanation. Under HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, the privacy and security of patient data are paramount. Patient data should be de-identified to remove any personal identifiers, and access should be strictly controlled to authorized personnel only. This ensures that sensitive information is not disclosed without patient consent, although there are various ways to manage data, e.g., paper forms or hard drives. The primary focus should be on de-identification and controlled access to protect privacy. Sharing data with all stakeholders, option C, or using non-centralized storage, option D, would compromise data security and privacy. Paper forms, option A, are also not preferred, as electronic systems often provide more robust security and auditing features. Question 26. Informed consent process. Which of the following best describes the role of the Clinical Research Coordinator (CRC) in the informed consent process? A. The CRC is responsible for explaining the clinical trial's scientific rationale and providing detailed information about the investigational product. B. CRC's primary responsibility is to ensure that the participant signs the informed consent form without coercion or undue influence. C. The CRC must independently assess the participants' eligibility and decide whether they should participate in the trial. D. The CRC responsible for ensuring that the participant's legal guardian signs the consent form if the participant is minor. Answer: B. Explanation. The CRC's primary responsibility in the informed consent process is to ensure that the participant signs the consent form voluntarily and without coercion or undue influence. The CRC facilitates the process by providing the participant with the necessary information about the study, including its purpose, procedures, risks, and benefits, but they are not responsible for providing detailed scientific explanation, option A, or making decisions about eligibility, option C. In the case of minors, the legal guardian typically signs the consent form, but this responsibility would fall more under the investigator's role, option D. The CRC ensures the ethical and legal aspects of obtaining informed consent are adhered to by fostering a transparent and supportive environment. Question 27. Regulatory affairs and compliance. Which of the following is true regarding the FDA's investigational new drug IND application process? A. An IND is required only for clinical trials conducted outside the United States. B. The IND application must be submitted to the FDA before any clinical trial can begin in the United States. C. The IND application is primarily concerned with the financial viability of the clinical trial. D. An IND must be approved by the Institutional Review Board before submission to the FDA. Answer. B. Explanation. An investigational new drug IND application must be submitted to the FDA and approved before a clinical trial can begin in the United States. The IND application provides the FDA with necessary information to assess the safety and efficacy of the investigational drug before clinical trials can proceed. The IND is not concerned with the trial's financial aspects, option C, nor is it specifically for trials conducted outside the US, option A, while the ERB's approval is essential to ensure the protection of human subjects, option D, the IND submission is directly to the FDA, not contingent on ERB approval. Question 28. Data management in clinical trials. Which of the following is the most appropriate action if a data query arises during a clinical trial? A. The site should ignore the query if the data appears to be correct, as it will not affect the trial outcome. B. The investigator should resolve the query with the site staff before submission to ensure accuracy and consistency. C. The clinical research coordinator should enter the data without addressing the query to avoid delays. D. The data manager should remove the query from the database once it has been noted without resolution. Answer. B. Explanation. When a data query arises during a clinical trial, it is critical that the investigator, in collaboration with the site staff, addresses and resolves the query before submission. This ensures that the data is accurate, consistent, and aligned with the protocol requirements. Data integrity is paramount, and simply ignoring or entering data without addressing queries, options A, C, and D, can result in errors, protocol deviations. Regulatory non-compliance. Resolving queries before submission maintains the trial's validity and integrity, which is essential for both scientific and regulatory purposes. Question 29. Patient safety and risk management. Which of the following best describes how a clinical trial sponsor should manage a safety signal identified during the trial? A. The sponsor should conduct an immediate interim analysis to assess the extent of the signal and make decisions about trial continuation. B. The sponsor should ignore safety signals unless they are severe or life-threatening. C. The sponsor should only report safety signals to the FDA after the trial has concluded. D. The sponsor should send a safety signal to the Institutional Review Board and discontinue the trial without further investigation. Answer A. Explanation. When a safety signal is identified during a clinical trial, the sponsor is required to conduct an interim analysis to assess the extent of the signal and make decisions about the trial's continuation. This ensures that any potential risks to participants are addressed promptly, and appropriate actions, such as adjusting the protocol, revising informed consent, or pausing the trial, can be taken. Ignoring safety signals, option, or delaying reporting until the end of the trial, option C, could jeopardize participant safety and trial integrity. While the ERB must be notified, option D, discontinuation is not automatic. The sponsor needs to thoroughly assess the signal before taking any drastic actions. Question 30. Clinical trial design. In a randomized controlled trial, RET, which of the following is a primary advantage of randomization? A. It guarantees that the results will be statistically significant. B. It reduces the risk of bias by ensuring that treatment groups are comparable at baseline. C. It eliminates the need for a control group. D. It ensures that participants will receive the best possible treatment based on their health conditions. Answer. B. Explanation. Randomization in a randomized controlled trial, RET, helps reduce the risk of bias by ensuring that treatment groups are comparable at baseline. By randomly assigning participants to different treatment groups, randomization helps ensure that factors such as age, gender, disease severity, and other potential confounding variables are evenly distributed across the groups, leading to more reliable and valid results. Randomization enhances the generalizability of the findings. It does not guarantee statistical significance, option A, or eliminate the need for a control group, option C. Moreover, it does not ensure that participants will receive the best possible treatment for their individual health conditions, option D. The allocation is based on random assignment.